we're going to focus on specific addition, subtraction, and estimating sums and differences. And this is going to tie in with estimating through rounding and then estimating through front-end estimation. Now we're going to start off pretty easy, but when we move towards section 1.3, which is the estimating sums and differences, it does get a little tricky. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. So the first thing that we're going to look at are some terms dealing with addition. An addend are the numbers that are being added together. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about the first number or the second number, both of them are considered addends. Now when the two addends are added together, that will result in the sum. The sum is the total of the addends. So in the examples, you can see in example 1 there are two addends, and in example number 2 there are 3 addends. And as you follow along and you look more detailed, you can actually see the use of column addition. So if you look at example 2, 6 plus 7 plus 8 gives us 21. So I'm going in a column, a vertical column. I'm adding them together. And the 1 stays at the bottom, and I bring the 2 up over the 3. And then I'm going to stay in that column. 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 0 gives me 7. So this is something that you should have learned in the past, but we will be going over it if you need any help. So addition. So here is our column addition. When we add, if we have a number that's too large, such as the second example, 6 plus 7 plus 8, which gives us 21, I'm going to carry up the 2 from the 21 over the 3. So I want to stay in these columns, and I went ahead and created you these little lines showing you that they're going to stay in the columns. That 21 would never be pushed in the answer. That 2 has to come up over the 3. Okay, here are 4 questions I want you to try and do these on your own. There are answers in this video, but try and do these on your own. Try and pause this, please, and do the column addition. And you can look at the sample, how this is going to work. Okay, 7 plus 2 plus 3, okay, gives me 12. So 7 plus 5 pretty much gives me 12. Okay, 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 4 gives me 5. 3 plus 5 plus 1 gives me 9. 6 plus 9, that's going to give me 15, so I have to bring the 1 up over the 5. Okay, 1 plus 5 plus 8 gives me 14. I'm going to bring the 1 over the 2. So 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 6 gives me 13. I'm going to put the 1 over the 0. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then there's nothing there except the 4, so I'm going to bring the 4 down. Okay, 42,345,952. So I want you to go ahead and try these and then check your answers. Okay, here are the answers. And if you had any problems, please double check your work, slow down, make sure you're adding correctly, or if you're having trouble, please reach out to me. Now let's focus on subtraction. There are more than just 2 terms. With addition, we were dealing with the addend and the sums. But here we have 3 different terms. And here we are dealing with the top number and then the bottom number. So the one that's being subtracted from the top number will have a different name. The minuend is the number from which you are subtracting. So this is going to be your top number, the one that probably is many times larger, not in all cases, but this is the number that you are subtracting from. The subtrahend is the number that is being subtracted. The number that's being subtracted. Usually the smaller number, not in all cases, but it's the number underneath. Okay, and you can see that in an example. And then the answer is going to be the difference. The difference. Okay, take a look at the example. Example 1, 800 minus 256. 800 is your minuend. 256 is your subtrahend. And then we're going to go ahead and we have a 0 over the 6. Well, we cannot make it a negative number, negative 6, no. We're going to go ahead and turn that 0 into a 10. And because we turn that 0 into a 10, we're going to take from the next 0 and turn that into a 9. So we're going to take 1 away from there. So 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 5 is 4. And then we have to take away from the 8, and that becomes a 7. 7 minus 2 is 5. Then the difference is 544. If you take a look at the next example, okay, 5 minus 3, no problem, you have 2. But now the 4 is too small, so we have to turn that into 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. Now the 3 is too small, so we should turn that into a 13, but we stole from it to help the 4 out, so that drops to a 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. And then the 9 does not stay the same, even though it's bigger. We had to steal from it to help the 12 out, so that becomes an 8. 8,662. Okay, here's the skill check. I'd like you to pause it and try and do these on your own on a separate sheet of paper. Remember, use what we used previously. Now you can actually see on the top that sample in which it is horizontally spread out, looking like number 5. Added that sample for you to help you with number 5. Okay, here are the answers, and you can see how I broke it down. So please check your answers for subtraction. Now there are different ways to estimate. The first way is rounding. Rounding makes numbers easier to work with in your head. Now rounded numbers only approximate, and approximate refers to and means being close to the original but not exact. So an exact answer generally cannot be obtained by rounding numbers. Okay, so we will not have a specific exact answer. We would have a rounded close to the original but not exact. Now the use of rounding will get us an answer that's close, as we said, but not exact. Find the number in its spot. 5 or more, raise the score. 5 or less, let it rest. All the numbers to the right, and this is something I noticed in class that a lot of students were having trouble with. You have to remember this. All the numbers to the right will then turn to 0. Okay? All the numbers to the right run to 0 in a fright. Now some problems will tell you what place value to round it to. Some will not. Most likely, if they don't tell you, you have to raise it to probably the highest place value. Round it to the highest place value if they don't tell you. But if they want you to round it to something other than the highest, then they will tell you. Okay, so here's the example, round to the nearest 1,000. And you can actually see what we talked about in the previous notes. Okay, we have 126,965. Okay, so we're going to underline the 6. That's the thousands place. I'm going to circle the 9. 9 is greater than 5, so I'm going to round it up, and that would turn to 127,000. Let's try the next example. 193,210. The 3,000 is what we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to underline the 3. Circle the 2. 2 is less than 5, so 2, okay, will not cause the 3 to round up. So it stays 193, but then everything to the right becomes 0. Okay, so we have to remember that. Okay, here we have some food at Sandy's Family Diner, and then we have the prices to the side there. Now we're going to go ahead and round each to the highest place. So $9.99. Now we're going to estimate by rounding. And what this is talking about basically is rounding at the highest place value. So we're going to round each number to its highest place value. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract, add and subtract to find the estimated total. So here at Sandy's Diner, we have pork chops, which are $9.99. We're going to round this to the highest. Okay. We're going to underline the 9, the first $9, circle the 90 cents, and that's going to round up to $10. I'm going to underline the 9, circle the 2, it's under 5, so that gives me $9. Underline the 3, circle the 7. 7 is greater than 5, that will give me $4. The coffee rounds down to $1. The milk rounds up to $2. The cheesecake, because the 8 is higher than 5, will round up to $4. And then ice cream rounds down to $1. Now, if you have a question that then asks you to go ahead and estimate, but being more exact than what is given here, what we would do is we wouldn't go to the highest place value, we would go to the second highest place value. So let's kind of do this together mentally. So if I say, let's be more exact than $10, more exact than $9 from the original amount. So I'm going to still round, but I'm going to focus on the next place. So what I would have is I would focus on $9.90. I would underline that 90 cent, and I would look at the 9 cents in the 99 cents, and I would round that up to $9.99. Then that would round up to $10. Well, that's pretty much the same thing, but let's see on these other ones. So let's take a look at $9.25. I want to be a little more exact, so I'm focusing on the 2. I'd underline the 2, circle the 5. 5 or greater, so it would be $9.30. Now I'm being a little more exact. I'm still rounding, but I'm more exact than just $9. Now I'm at $9.30. Now, is $9.30 exact? No. Is it correct? No. But I rounded. Okay, let's be a little more exact with the child's spaghetti. Now, I'm not going to the highest place. Okay, if I was, I'd focus on the 3, underline the 3, circle the 7, round that up to 4. But now I'm going to focus on the 7. I'd underline the 7, circle the 9. So if I want it to be more exact, I'm going to round that 7 up to an 8. So we would have $3.80. Now the coffee. I'm going to underline the 2, circle the 0. Nothing changes. It stays as $1.20. Now we can see that's more exact, and that one was actually correct. It's more exact than the $1. Let's look at the milk. Underline the 6, circle the 5. I'm going to make it more exact, so $1.70. For the cheesecake, it actually stays the same because the 0 does not round the 8 up in any way. And the same thing happens with the ice cream. So I hope that helps with rounding. I'm going to focus on the highest place, but if I'm asked to be more exact, I'll go to the second highest place. Now let's go ahead and add these. Let's get the estimated total. Okay, 10 plus 9 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1. gives me $31. Now in your FitBin, I'm going to have you estimate the more exact total as well, and you can look at the answer key for that. Okay, so here's when some of the more exact questions come about in example 1 and 2. Example 1 is going to be, let's just round it to the highest, and let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm looking at the 3, and 33 is less than 5, so that brings me down to 30 million. The Indian Ocean, 28 million. That 8 brings me up to 30 million. Now I'm looking at the highest place. Okay. And then if I add the 2, I'm going to add them after I round them. I'm going to add them after I round them. Now let's look at example 2. Example 2 wants to give a more specific, a more accurate area estimate. So what I'm going to do now is not look at the highest place, I'm going to look at the second highest place. So instead of the 33 or the 28, I'm going to look at the 4, and I'm going to see that the 4 is under 5, so it's going to stay the same, so it's going to stay 33, but remember everything to the right of the 33 becomes zeros, and then the 28 also stays the same, and everything to the right becomes zeros. Now when I add these, it gives us 61 million. Now that is actually higher than the rounding we did in the previous one. So when I become more exact or more accurate, okay, it does change the answer. Okay, now we're going to move into something that's a little tricky, and this is front-end estimation. For me personally, it's pretty easy if you just break apart the word front end. What does front mean? Beginning, first one. Okay, when we round, we're going to be looking at the highest place value, but here we're just looking at the first number, and that's it, just the first number. So front-end estimation mostly produces a closer estimate of the sum or difference than the answer produced by adding and subtracting rounded numbers. So it's actually going to produce a closer estimate than rounding. So this is actually more detailed, more of an accurate estimate than rounding. So if I ask you which one is maybe not necessarily better, but which one would give you a more accurate or a more or a closer estimate, it would be front-end estimation instead of rounding. So let's take a look at that. We're going to identify the place value for the front-end estimation. We're going to take the digit, we're going to focus on the first digit of each number, and we're going to take the first digit of each number in the identified place value, and then we're going to add or subtract when needed. So let's take a look at these. You can see in the example 1, for front-end estimation, I am not rounding. How do I know I'm not rounding? Let's take a look at the Pacific Ocean. Okay, if I look at the 6, okay, 4 is under 5, it would make it 60. Okay, well, okay, Atlantic, 3 is under 5, then make it 30. But look at this, Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean, the 8 is higher than 5. That should turn it to a 3. But we are not rounding here. Remember, we are just looking at the first number. We are looking at 6. We are looking at 3. We were looking at 2. And we're going to go ahead and add them together. Just the first numbers. This is front-end estimation. Now, what happened to the poor Arctic Ocean? There's nothing there. It's a 0 because 6 plus 3 plus 2, so 6 plus 5 gives us 11. Okay, I did not round up that 5. I just looked at the first one in that column. and the Arctic had nothing in that column, so I did not use it. Okay. Now, if I want to be more accurate with front-end estimation, I would go ahead and look at, okay, the first and then the second number. Okay, so I would go ahead and then add those together. Okay, so now I would use the 5. Okay, using that column. Okay, and you can see the answer difference is very large. It's a big difference. Okay, so front-end estimation, I'm just looking at the first number. Let's look at the second example. Okay, I'm subtracting here. I'm just looking at the first number. 6 minus 2, okay, is 4. I'm not rounding that 28 up to a 3, no. Okay, because that would give me a totally different answer. Now, if I do a more accurate estimation, I'm not using just the first number. I'm going to be using the first and second number. And that gives me a completely different answer. Okay, if you have any questions about that, let me know. Remember, front end is not rounding, just looking at the first number. If it asks you to be more accurate or more exact, then you look at the first and second number. Okay, I want you to go ahead and do this skill check. And what we're going to do is I want you to do it, do all 4 of these, just front end. And I want you to focus on just the first number. Then I want you to go ahead and do these again and make them more accurate. Okay, so go ahead, pause this. Do 1 through 4, just front end, first number. And then I want you to do these again, but make these more accurate and do the first 2 numbers. Okay, so pause me now, and then I want you to take a look at the answers. Okay, here's number 1 and number 2. You can see at the top here, we have just the front end. I'm just dealing with 3 plus 8. And then number 2, I'm dealing with 6 plus 0 because I'm focusing on that column, right? And that gives me 6,000. But when I want to make it more accurate, a more accurate estimation, I'm going to look at the first 2, the 3 and 4, and then the 8 and 0. Okay? And then I add that up together, and that gets 11,400. Remember, I'm not rounding, not rounding. Then for number 2, if I become more accurate, now I will be using the 6 and 8 and the 4. So I'm actually subtracting here. Okay, so 6,800 minus 400, and I get 6,400. Okay, hopefully you did well. Let's look at the last 2, number 3 and 4. So number 3 and 4, remember 3 and 4 first, I'm just going to do the front end. So front end is just 2 plus 1. That gives me 3, and I bring down everything else will become zeros. And then number 4, okay, I'm subtracting 5 minus 1, 4. Everything else becomes zeros because I'm just doing the first numbers. If I become more accurate, I'll use the first and second, and I'll go ahead, add those, and subtract those. So hopefully you did well. If you need any help or you have any questions, please reach out to me through Marco Polo or email. Okay, have a great day, guys.